welcome to Capital Online TV News. My name is Anita Nderu and these are the stories making headlines. NASA leader Raila Odinga has now changed his mind and will be challenging the presidential elections that favoured President Uhuru Kenyatta at the Supreme Court. Raila says he opted for legal action following the government crackdown on civil society organizations that could have challenged the presidential results.
We had said that we will not go to court. But with the raid on civil society and determination to silence all voices that could seek legal redress, like the AfriCOG and the Kenya Human Rights Commission, we have now decided to move to the Supreme Court and lay before the world the making of and to move to the Supreme Court and lay before the world the making of a computer-generated leadership.
He says the alliance will be seeking to persuade the world that indeed the service of the Electoral Commission had been manipulated to provide a premeditated outcome of the presidential election.
We will show how they shamelessly cooked the results from the non-existent polling stations and fake and gazetted presiding and returning officers. They have figures from non-existent forms 34As and 34Bs. They scrambled to manufacture such forms, switched vote numbers, and how they openly swindled to reach predetermined consistent vote numbers.
President Kenyatta was declared winner of last week's election after defeating the NASA leader with more than 1.4 million votes, but Odinga claims he was rigged out. The Kenya Revenue Authority on Wednesday morning unsuccessfully tried to execute a raid on the Africa Center for Open Governance. This comes a day after the NGO Coordination Board advised the police to shut down its operations and arrest its directors. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations KRA Police Unit, which obtained a search warrant from the courts yesterday, however, abandoned their efforts after meeting resistance from a representation of the Kenya Civil Society and AfriCOG lawyer Haran Dubi, who took issues with the orders they were served.
The order, which was extracted as a result of that application, has no heading, so we don't know whether it is an order related to the application you made or it was an order related to something else. Two, it doesn't suggest that it is an order against AfriCOG or Gladwell Otieno. Three, it is not signed by whom. The name of the magistrate who gave the order is not known in the order. But it has no heading also. It is seeking to collect the entire office of AfriCOG or wherever else except for the building and furniture. Because it's saying collect everything without disclosing what offense they are investigating.
The police unit sought to cart away documents, computers and digital storage devices which they said could contain records crucial to a tax offence investigation in AfriCOG. AfriCOG Chairman John Githongo, backed by fellow board member Maina Kiai and Kenya Human Rights Commission board member Muthoni Wanyeki, is however insistent that they were tax compliant and are therefore the victims of a witch hunt.
We have not received any letter from the NGO Coordination Board as AfriCOG. We have received nothing. We are responding to to things that we saw on social media, that we saw a letter. So, it would also be good to be advised whether if this is the mode of transmission for government to communicate with organizations.
Voters have a tendency of choosing candidates for different political seats based on their viability to win, going by the recently concluded general elections. According to Ipsos research analyst Tom Wolfe, Nairobi voters, for instance, seem to have found the two leading gubernatorial candidates more attractive regardless of their performance in televised debates based on their approval ratings as projected by opinion polls, something that largely informed their choice of candidate. Wolfe told Capital TV that most voters were faced with the choice of picking between the governor-elect Mike Sonko and his main opponent, the outgoing governor Evans Kidero, who looked more promising to win the race, or risk independent candidates Peter Kenneth and Miguna Miguna, who despite well-articulated manifestos appeared least likely to have won.
A major thing that people will look at, as I said before, is whether the candidate is viable, whether they actually have a chance of winning. Now, if we had an opinion poll showing that all of these four candidates were at 25% each, and if you people in the media were publicizing that so that most voters knew, then I think the impact of these debates and other campaign activities would be much greater. But the minor candidates were never getting above even Peter Kenneth above 6 or 7%, Miguna 1 or 2%. People could see that. So why would you want to waste your vote, if I can use that word?
Governors accused of embezzling funds are not yet off the hook, EACC has said. The anti-graft body chairperson, retired Bishop Eliud Wabukala, says whether a leader was elected or not, they will have to face the rule of the law if it is established they were corrupt. He has cautioned newly elected governors against engaging in the vice, saying no person will be spared. New governors, he says, should audit the previous administration once they are sworn in and raise queries whether financial or not with the commission.
I think one question that seems to be common is how do we deal with the past? I think as a commission, nothing has changed in the way we were constituted. We have all the legal mechanisms, whether you are still in office or out of office, and if you committed a corruption relevant mistake, you will be dealt with. You are a Kenyan, you are not going out of Kenya. I was in one forum telling governors attending to one of their functions, we said it's good for you to work well so that when you retire, you don't retire into a prison. And therefore, the Commission will continue to follow its legal system to pursue all corruption cases, whether past or present.
We are asking the new officers or governors in particular, as they assume their offices, they should take account of what has been left behind by their predecessors.
Lastly, Commissioner Rosalind Akombe has been cleared to travel to the United States. This comes after Akombe was briefly held at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport last night. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission official is said to have been denied clearance after she failed to produce a letter from the head of public service, a requisite for all public officials travelling abroad. Akombe was, however, allowed to proceed on her official trip by officials at the airport and will be back in the country on Sunday. That's all we had for you today. For the latest on these and other stories, log on to www.capitalfm.co.ke. Have yourselves a great evening. My name is Anita Ndero.